I'm going to ask the honourable member from Lethbridge if she has problems with the chair, that she should challenge the chair in a way. But as she knows, as the honourable member from Lethbridge knows, that by challenging the chair is against the rules of this House. I'll ask the honourable member to please to ask her to withdraw her remarks.
The chair is acting in a disgraceful manner.
I'm going to ask you, will you... Ms. Harder, I have to name you for disregarding the authority of the chair. Pursuant to authority granted to me by Standing Order 11, I order you to withdraw from the House and from any participation by video conference for the remainder of this day's sitting. Now back to the issue at hand. Mrs. Thomas, my apologies. Now back to the original point. I'm going to ask the Prime Minister to please, as I'd ask the Leader of the Opposition, you can start from again and to make sure that he does, to start his question, to reframe it in a way that does not call into the character of an individual member of Parliament. The Honourable Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Just point out that if we flip through them on this page here, you can see my words are kindly highlighted for you. Wow. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of privilege today regarding a significant discrepancy between what was published in the Blues and what was published in Hansard of yesterday.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Ehren right here, Question Period Canada. We started this channel about Canadian federal politics a number of months ago. Didn't have a clue any side on the side of the people at the grocery store lineup. That was it. And then we started watching Question Period Canada live. We started there making other videos, learning all about this stuff. Now we have a network. People send me videos. I've got so much content that I want to make. Now I'm trying to make a sort of general intro to all these wacky videos that are happening in Canada. Like, my oh my guys, we've got to take a closer look. Let's take a peek at this one. They never slow down, these Canadian politics. They don't stop. This one's wild.
I am now prepared to rule on a question of privilege raised on May 1st, 2024 by the member for Lethbridge regarding the content of the debates of April 30th, 2024. In doing so, I would also like to comment on several points of order raised subsequently regarding the fallout from that day's events. In raising her question of privilege, the member stated that the debates of April 30, 2024 did not accurately reflect the previous day's proceedings in the House. She had alleged that the words, "I withdraw," had been removed from the Blues in the portion where the chair had named her. The member stated that those words appeared under her name in the initial version of the Blues and were attributed to her, and that they could be heard in the audio recording. She added that, in this specific context, those words were not insignificant, as they showed that she had unconditionally complied with the Speaker's request, and that her withdrawal from the House was therefore unjustified. The member argued that, since she was unable to participate in the debates and votes of that day, her privileges had been breached. She also noted that this misrepresentation of her actions could amount to an improper reflection upon a member. The member was supported by some of her colleagues who said that they had heard her say those words. Let us first review the events of April 30. The beginning of question period that day was particularly difficult. There was clearly a lot of strong language and strong reactions that required the chair to intervene. I issued warnings, but also the possibility to rephrase their comments to both Leader of the Opposition and the Prime Minister for particular words they used, those terms being racist and spineless, respectively. I'm going to issue the ruling and then we can entertain points of order. I subsequently asked for the word wacko to be withdrawn when it was used as a personal insult. I am certain I will recognize a point of order at the end of the ruling. When it was used as a personal insult, I am certain all members can agree that such terms are not helpful and do not contribute to the kind of civility necessary for our proceedings. In the course of these events, the chair was subjected to invective from the member for Lethbridge. The chair told the member that challenging decisions of the chair is contrary to the standing orders and subsequently asked her to withdraw her words. The member replied by saying that the chair was acting in a disgraceful manner. At that point, since she did not appear to be complying with my request to withdraw her words, I rose and her microphone was deactivated. Even though the member was only a few meters from the chair, I did not hear what she said after her microphone was turned off, as there was too much noise in the House. The member was named pursuant to Standing Order 11. Les Bleus de Hansard constituent la...
The Hansard Blues are the unrevised transcript of the debates of the House of Commons. The debates, on the other hand, are the record of the proceedings with the necessary editing and grammatical corrections. As House of Commons Procedure and Practice, 3rd edition, states on page 1227, and I quote, "The debates are published under the authority of the Speaker of the House. They are compiled using the audio recording of the proceedings as well as information provided by parliamentary publications staff stationed on the floor of the House." End of quote. As Speaker Milliken explained on March 20th, 2001 on page 1917 of the debates, and I quote, "The editors of Hansard always try to be fair and just in reporting and printing what we have said in the House. It is often difficult to determine exactly what was said." End of quote.
Jeremy, may I please... It is the normal tradition of this House that the Speaker finishes his ruling before points of order are raised. I will entertain them at the end of the ruling, which will happen in a couple of minutes. While the debates are published under the authority of the Chair, the House should know that the Chair plays no part in editing the debates. The editors of the Parliamentary Publications team craft a record that, in their judgment, best corresponds to the proceedings, without political interference and in a completely non-partisan manner. The editors may make changes to the records of the House proceedings, whether or not those changes are proposed by members, in accordance with their own guidelines and long-standing practices. Moreover, it is understood that the revisions should not alter the substance or meaning of the members' statements in the House. The Chair learned that on April 30, 2 versions of the Blues had been prepared. The words "I withdraw" were indeed in the first version and were attributed to the member for Lethbridge. During the revision process, the editors listened carefully to the audio recording of the sitting, but could not be certain that those specific words had been said or that the statement should be attributed to the member for Lethbridge. The word "withdraw" was clearly audible, but what preceded it was not. Let me repeat. The word "withdraw" was clearly audible, but what preceded was not. Given the context of the exchange between the Chair and the member, the words she said immediately prior and the process by naming the member that subsequently began, the audio in question could plausibly be interpreted as either "I withdraw" or "I do not withdraw." In addition, the particularly high level of ambient noise substantially complicated the editor's task. Faced with this uncertainty, the editors removed the words and a second version of the Blues was produced, which was provided to the member. No comments or revisions were communicated to the Parliamentary Publications Department in connection with this intervention prior to the publication of Hansard by the member for Lethbridge or her staff or any other member of their staff. Finally, The words are not included in the published versions of the debates. Finally, the words are not included in the published version of the debates. While investigating this matter, the chair also learned that the staff responsible for debates had provided these explanations to the member in the afternoon of May 1, even before she raised the question of privilege. Comme la députée de Lethbridge,
as the member for Lethbridge later pointed out on May 9th, it is true that on the morning of May 1st, a member of my staff received a question from a journalist about the difference between the blues and the debates. On the other hand, it should be noted that the answer offered was very general and was provided even before the question of privilege was raised in the House.
The chair recognizes that the member for Lethbridge states that she said, "I withdraw." The chair has no reason to doubt her word, nor that of the chief opposition whip, who confirmed that others heard those words. I hope she will accept that, because she began by repeating her comments, and because the noise level was so high, the chair did not hear her say that day that she was withdrawing her words. My decision to name her seemed justified based on the information I had at the time. If the member had begun by withdrawing her words, events surely would have unfolded differently. I want to emphasize this point. When the chair asks a member to withdraw offensive remarks and apologize, out of respect for the chair and the rules of the House, the chair expects members to comply. No hesitation, period. An invitation to withdraw words that are deemed unacceptable is not an invitation to repeat those very words. In the event of refusal to comply, a member risks being named and asked to withdraw from the House, or having the chair decide not to recognize them until they do. Les députés.
Members sometimes disagree with the chair's decisions, but it is important for all members to accept them once they are made. Disregarding the rules is one thing. Disregarding the authority of the chair when one is called to order is another. As the member for New Westminster Burnaby stated in his point of order on May 1st, 2024, criticising such decisions in the House amounts to challenging the chair, which is contrary to our practices. On the other hand, whilst it is true that the chair exercises control over decorum during proceedings and generally doesn't comment on statements made outside, attacks on the Speaker or the Deputy Speaker outside of the House can have a corrosive effect on our proceedings. It certainly does not help the House to function smoothly.
In conclusion, the chair is of the opinion that the final version of the debates was prepared in accordance with the standards applied by the debates editors, and that their decision, as well as the chair's decision to name the member, were justifiable based on the information available on April 30. Consequently, I cannot find a prima facie question of privilege. The member for Lethbridge has clearly indicated what her words were, and that is now also part of the record. Je remercie les députés.
I would like to thank members for their attention.
Member from Calgary, Nose Hill, is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Chair. My point of order relates to the manner in which you have arrived at this decision. In several previous cases and questions of privilege related to your conduct, for example, I had raised a point of privilege related to the government potentially withholding information on an order paper question which you had signed off on in your role as parliamentary secretary in this parliament. You had recused yourself from this decision. In this instance, you are ruling on a matter which directly relates to, once again, your conduct and your behavior. So how is it possible that you can make a ruling related to your behavior when precedent in this parliament clearly shows that you should have recused yourself? Thank you.
I thank the Honourable from Calgary Nose Hill for raising her point of order. Because the question of privilege was germane to the question of how the blues are prepared and how the contents of Hansard were prepared, which of course the Speaker has no role in doing, it was found to be appropriate for the Speaker to be able to issue this ruling. The Honourable Member from Saanich Gulf Islands is rising on a point of order, I imagine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd risen when this controversy was first brought to our attention by the honourable member for Lethbridge, in deep concern about the possibility that words that were spoken that were in the initial blues were changed without the member's knowledge, because this is an essential piece of how this place works, that we be confident that there's no interference between the words that come out of our mouth as best they're able to be captured, but the extraordinarily talented and dedicated staff that have, well, obviously with new equipment, but for centuries there's been Hansard, and the words of parliamentarians are recorded, and we hope faithfully. I also want to make a parenthetical comment, Mr. Speaker, and then I want to ask a specific question in case your ruling included it and I missed it. But one of the things about the operations of Parliament, which is to say the fragility of our democracy, is that in Westminster parliamentary democracies, and such as Canada, and I would say particularly Canada, much rests on intangibles: respect, decency, unwritten rules, traditions, concern for the country, etc. There's a lot of intangibles that float around in terms of respect. And I know that when I was the honourable member for Regina Capel, when he was Speaker, I vigorously disagreed with many of his rulings. But I knew, since there's no appeal from a Speaker's ruling, there'd be nothing but chaos if I were to show anything but respect for the rulings I heard, no matter how passionately I disagreed. So my point is this, Mr. Speaker, we're in a perilous place, and to all my colleagues I say the same. We have to be able to work together and respect our traditions. They are intangible, they are imperfect, but without them, there's nothing here but chaos. So my question, Mr. Speaker, and I don't know if you can respond to it now or fill me in later, what I still find unclear is I've had the experience of saying things, and the Hansard staff have gotten back to me to say, we're not sure we heard you right. What did you say? So what I'm missing here, I do remember the day, and I remember there was a lot of noise and a lot of chaos, so I can understand it was hard to hear clearly. What I'm not certain about, and I'd feel much more reassured as to I'm very concerned about the point the member from Lethbridge made. I'd like to be absolutely certain that nothing untoward occurred between what she said and how it was recorded. Do we know if the staff from Hansard reached out to the member from Lethbridge to seek clarification before the new version of Hansard emerged that removed the words "I withdraw"? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'd like to thank the honourable member from Saanich Gulf Island rising on this point of order, as was contained in the ruling of the chair. And if you were to check the ruling, we do address precisely that point, that there were 2 times that the blues were prepared and shared with, and there was a discussion on top of that between the member from Lethbridge and the people who prepare Hansard. I thank the honourable member from Lethbridge.
Mr. Speaker, I would offer to respond to that, actually. There was no effort made to reach out to my office to clarify what I had said that day and whether or not the blues had been changed. In fact, they were changed without my knowledge and then published in Hansard Record, which was signed off by your office, Mr. Speaker, all without me knowing about it. It was only after the change that I, on my initiative, reached out to your office in order to seek clarification and understand the procedure better.
I thank the honourable member from Lethbridge. Once again, I would encourage all members to read the ruling very carefully. The honourable member from the honourable parliamentary secretary is rising on a point of order.
Part of the concern that I have on this, Mr. Speaker, is you have the official Hansard record when a member is standing up and speaking. And then you have individuals, and there's mics that are around, that often pick up the heckling that takes place. From my understanding, there is no issue with regards to members that have been recognized and speaking. What we're talking about is off-the-side comments. And Hansard does not record all the off-the-side comments, nor do I believe we would want to mandate them to do that, because you would need another whole team plus at times to record all of the statements that are said off the record. And what the member did was something that she said was completely off the record. I never even heard it.
Before we get into a back and forth, I just want to make clear the chair has been very open to hearing points of view, especially on a sensitive issue like this. I'm going to invite all members to please take a closer look at the ruling. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary raises a point which I think can, again, be found in the ruling in terms of how this was captured or not captured. I'm going to allow the opposition whip to be the official opposition whip to rise on a point of order, on a last point of order on this matter. It is not normally, well, here's the reason why, is that there is not, after a decision of the chair, it is not up for debate. But I do understand, and I have a great respect for the opposition House Leader. I do
Chief
for the House Leader,
Opposition Whip.
but the Chief Opposition Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just I'm standing for clarity on this. This was not a heckle. It was not an offside comment, as has just been characterized. It was, no, it wasn't. You're heckling now. That is not the same thing. Yeah. What it was a statement by the person who had been recognized. There was an exchange going on, and her last comment was, I withdraw, which was picked up and then in the blues. I won't go any further on the point other than to say that was a mischaracterization of what happened on the day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the Honourable Opposition Whip, and I appreciate that point, and it's a fair point as well, and that is what, and I invite all members once again to read the ruling where it makes it very clear as to the sequence of events. And so I'm afraid that that is the final point that the Speaker is going to be entertaining on this issue. If it's on the same matter, I'm going to, once as I said earlier, I'm going to invite the honourable member from Yorkton Melville to please take a look at the ruling of the Speaker.
So gang, that's another wild one right there. I'm not gonna try to tell you what to think about what you just saw. You're a Canadian, you can make up your own mind. But I do want you to come back and watch some more of the wild videos that we collect. We've got this network happening now. And also, if you're interested in a live chat in a fun stream, we watch the question periods daily, all of them. It's a great community. It's a fun chat. Come check us out. Like, subscribe, get notified, all that fun stuff. Comment. I love the comments. And especially just come back. I just want you to come back. Not going to try to sell you anything. Here we go. We're just learning about Canadian federal politics right here. Question Period Canada. We have 1 million questions, almost no answers, but we'll be showing you the videos. So like, subscribe, get notified, share, all those fun things. Check out one of the other videos. We've got a good thing going on here. Liking and learning, and sharing with you. That's what we're doing right here. Question Period Canada. Catch the next video. It'll be wacky.